I was not even 24 hours out the hospital of giving birth to my daughter. I still had open staples when I went into county jail. My very first bowel movement from out the hospital, you know, when they say call the nurse when you have your first bowel movement after being released from the hospital. My very first bowel movement was in the county jail in front of 20 women I didn't even know. That was the most horrific and terrifying thing. At the age of 23, I didn't understand what I was going through.
Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about intake into prison. We have state and federal prison systems. Depending on the crime that you committed, you're either in one of those entities. Today, I can tell you about the Minnesota State Facility, preferably Shakopee Women's Facility. It's in Shakopee, Minnesota. It houses 500 people, but it is over-capacitated with 600 plus women. A lot of the women, they were made to be single rooms because they didn't see that it would be that many women committing crimes when they first built the place. But some of those rooms now are double bunked or triple bunked in that facility. Intake for me was it was difficult.
What was the first thing, questions, your duty? What was the first thing that they had you do when you made it to the facility?
When I made it into Shakopee.
First of all, where did you come from? Were you in a county jail?
I was in a county jail. Okay. No, yeah, I was in a county jail. When I got sentenced, I was out during sentencing.
Okay.
Went in for sentencing. Nope, I went in for sentencing, and that's when they gave me my time. They took me back. I stayed in the county for about a week, and I was transported immediately to the Shakopee.
Okay, and how was that ride? Did you take a ride? Did they drive you there? You had to catch the bus? Were you with other women?
I was the only woman, and they drove me to the facility.
Okay. Yes. Did you get there at night or early in the morning?
Oh, it was early morning. I think they came and got me like 5 or 6 in the morning. And I got to Shakopee around maybe 10. It was early morning, right before lunch. But during intake, the first thing, they took the handcuffs off me, asked me a series of questions.
Like what? What were some of the questions that they asked you?
Medical history.
Okay.
How many months you got, and just the simple.
Your release date?
No, they didn't have my release date calculated then.
Okay.
I didn't get those calculations till like a week or two later.
Okay.
But I had to change out. Mm-hmm. So someone watched me take my clothes off, shower, and they made sure I didn't pat me down, make sure I didn't have anything in my hair. So you brought any contraband or anything.
So do they watch you while you shower?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what is
squat and cough?
Purpose? What's the purpose of them watching you wash
I'm thinking they making sure they're not really watching, but they're right close by anyway.
Okay.
Just make sure you don't bring any contraband into the facility because that is at the time when I was doing my time, it was just no fence around a facility.
Oh,
so a lot of people could just walk off.
Okay.
Grounds or whatever.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you were in a low or minimum?
It was all levels.
Oh, okay.
But it's only being the only facility. It was all levels. So we were in there.
Only facility in the state of Minnesota that housed women on a state level. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yep. So I changed out, cough, squat, whatever. And they gave me a bucket, which that's the bucket I will have until I leave.
Okay.
So and they explain to you if your food, everything has to fit in this one bucket. If you even have to get in trouble or go to SEG or anything like that. Okay. Your food, it's 2 buckets. Your food bucket and then your paper bucket.
Okay.
So
And what was your paper bucket for?
Like if you had books, paperwork, letters from your loved ones, cards, stuff like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So massive amount of property you can't have. So whatever didn't fit in the two buckets, what would they, if you say, for instance, if it was overflowing, both buckets were overflowing, whether it was your, like your paperwork, books, educational things, and then your food, personal items. What if it overflowed?
They would confiscate it. You got to go resize everything, and whatever did not fit, they threw it away.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So say, for instance, you went to commissary and you spent, let's say, $100. Mm-hmm. If it all didn't fit in that bucket, you would have to throw it away. You couldn't give it away?
They wouldn't know offhand, really, unless they really want to give you a search or something like that it didn't fit.
Okay.
But if you got in trouble and went to SIG and they had to pack your room up, that's when they will size everything and be like, okay, this is too much. You put it in garbage bags.
Okay, so another question. The bucket, you're saying, do you have a lock on it? Or it's just anyone can go in it, it's not safe?
Well, some people, it's not safe. It's unlocked.
Wow. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right.
The only thing is closed off that you really want to have no one have access to is your key, your locker. You get like a cabinet like you would have in your room. One side is your roommate and one side is yours.
Okay.
And both of you guys can.
Both of you share a key.
No.
You have your own key to your own side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in your locker, was there any? You couldn't put the food in?
Yeah, you could put food in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Food, your clothes, your shoes, jacket.
So you had some personal away from inmates, not from the guards.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So I went to, after we're done, they fed me lunch in a room. So I had to stay in a room for a little while until they had a relieving officer that would take me across to the intake building, which is called Broker. Mm-hmm. Broker is the building where they have all the women that's being new women or, orientation you have to sit there. Okay. So we did do orientation classes, and we could only have an hour out a day until we found a job, the food service or education or someone like that wanted you to work there.
Okay, so how would they know to find you to work for them? Your name just comes up, or you go looking for the job while you're out for an hour?
Your name comes up. Okay. And that's when they pick all the intake people who they want to work in the kitchen or
they place you.
Maintenance. They place you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And another question. Now, in the process of you waiting, you're in the intake process of the just starting your bid. Say someone needs you before the time is up. Like you said, it was 45 days, right?
Right. Oh, they can get you. Yeah, okay. They can. 2 weeks,
45
whatever.
days is the longest you will be in intake.
Right.
Okay. And the least you could be in intake is what?
Maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. So 2 weeks to 45 days, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so prior to that, you don't have a roommate or anything?
You have a roommate because it's so overcrowded. You're going to have a roommate.
Okay. So you have a roommate.
And that's the only person pretty much you talk to unless you go out for that hour and talk to other people.
Okay. Do you get to have visits during this time?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see your family members in the 45 days. Mm-hmm. Do you get to talk on the phone?
Oh, yeah. We can still, within that hour.
Oh, so
you can talk. Within that hour, you take your shower. You use the phone. You fix your food, your meal, girl. Yes. And
you mean to tell me she can, in the state prison, you can only, for your first 45 days in the penitentiary, could you handle that? How did you handle that? How did you handle 45 days without, like, your kids, your husband, your mom, everybody? Just like, how did you handle that? Take us back to that time. Bring us back to that moment of those 45 days. And your children were how old when you first went in?
3 and 4.
So
and then my
babies,
oldest was 13.
So the babies, 13, especially 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Ramon.
Okay. And you had a son, and that's crucial. He needs mom at that time. Then you had a daughter and another son.
Right.
So these are critical moments that you were going through emotionally.
Yes.
Take us back to that mindset of those 45 days. How did you handle it to say, I'm going to get out, I'm changing my life, and I'm never doing this again?
Right.
How did you get out? How did you put yourself in a place where now you're a successful business owner and you own a product line? Like, you know, you're running multiple streams of income right now. Like, what?
Wow.
Did you ever think that this would happen to you? How many years ago was that?
This was exactly 10 years ago. Well, over 10 years ago. Well, 10 years ago I was released.
Okay.
So,
and what date? What
15
year?
years ago.
What year were you released?
I was released in 2009, November.
Okay.
I entered prison April 13th, 2004. No, yeah. 2004.
All right. Okay.
So
you
I was going through
exactly 10 years right now. All right.
So I was going through a lot of emotions. I was angry, mad at the world, really sad because of my kids. I was gone from my family.
Right.
It's just it was a range of different emotions.
Okay.
And I just wanted to be mad at the system.
Okay.
And I felt that they were unfair. And I mean, I just was going through a lot.
And so now, being as that, you know, you're a successful businesswoman and you flip the hustle to legitimize yourself in society and you're a pillar in your community, what would you suggest to all the girls under us that would think like, I need to hustle to get to the next level? What thing would you tell them to stop them?
Illegal activity. I would tell them, try and find something that they can do that's legal.
Okay.
I mean, if they have that hustler mentality, which I used to have, find something that you're passionate about, that you know that you're going to follow through with. Get training on top of training, certified, whatever you have to do to get to that point where you're going to feel comfortable where you can run a business of your own, become your own entrepreneur. Or if you don't become that, work for somebody that you know that you can, you know, be flexible with your schedule, able to, you know, use your creativity to broaden yourself and get to the higher level. Okay. You just got to surround yourself around like-minded people, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, just surround yourself around positive people that you know that are doing great things and will bring you alongside with them.
Okay. And so what the after you came out of your intake, what happened your first week after intake? What was your first job?
My first job was as a baker.
All right. Okay.
At in the facility, so we cooked for like 600 people.
Okay. And how, being as though, you know, you had children, so I know, you know, you knew how to cook
and all that. Yeah,
so how did you transition from being just a home wife cooking versus cooking for a population of 600? How did you handle that?
I think it was it was easy for me because I know math and know how to calculate and make things bigger. So and I had a partner with me, so she was helpful. You know, she worked there before me. She was there a couple of years before me as a baker. So I was pretty much assistant to her. So me and her worked well together, and we just came up with different recipes and stuff to cook for the facility.
Okay. And would you say those tools that you learned in the kitchen, did that help you? Oh, yeah, it really did, because it helped me know how to work with larger restaurant-style equipment, you know, just if I was to open up a restaurant, I could do that now because I know how to work with the
appliances and stuff, and know where to get it, and know how to order a large abundance of food for different stuff. So
okay,
it was pretty cool. It was all right, but
okay. So for your first conversation with the people that decided, what you would do, your walk, how you will walk and operate while your time was going on.
Oh, yes. Well, it's called the PRT, Program Review Team.
Okay.
The Program Review Team consists of a counselor that works with you, probably education, recreation, the warden or assistant warden is there, and probably one head CEO, lieutenant, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I can remember, medical staff.
And what were the questions or program that they had laid out for you to do while you did your time? What were their suggestions?
Their suggestions were for me to take advantage of college classes, utilize the gym. It wasn't much because I pretty much had my high school diploma. I went to school and stuff like that.
Right.
Stay out of trouble. And they were saying my points was high because of my felony. My custody status was high because of my felony points. Okay. And it ended up going and telling you about recidivism. You have a high rate of coming back and all this. Sometimes it's a blow to you to break you down. Okay. But then they'll say your other programs that you're eligible for release. They did have CIP, CRP, a couple different things, and they'll tell you, oh, you can't get that, or you can get this. You could leave out early on the home monitoring. You can't do this. But my sentence was so long, I didn't even think about it. I didn't care to know what a release date was because it was a 10-year, it was a 9-year sentence I had to do straight.
Okay, and then so when were you eligible for work release or home monitoring?
So when they had the work release, they said my projected release would be January 13th, 2013. Okay. And I could get work release 8 months prior to that. Okay. So I would have to file for work release, send my application in January 2012 before that. But I prayed about different things. I'm a prayerful woman. That's right. I said I wasn't going to do all that time. That's right. And I even told them that. Right. And they just looked at me like, okay, but sitting there, I stayed in the law library. I read up a lot of different laws, trying to get myself back in court. I did a post-conviction. I was doing all kind of stuff saying, this is crazy to be serving a 13-year sentence for a nonviolent crime such as possession of drugs or whatever. Okay. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, what did you go through? And then you were federal. Yeah, I was locked up in Carswell, Fort Worth, Texas, right? And first of all, I was in the VOA, right? Volunteers of America. And at that time, they housed state and federal. They had the federal on a separate wing, federal on the one wing, state on the other wing, right? That was just a holding facility. Oh, okay. Before I was held in the state of Minnesota because I had just given birth to my daughter 4 days before I caught my case. So actually, I was not even 24 hours out the hospital of giving birth to my daughter. I still had open staples when I went in the county jail. My very first bowel movement from out the hospital, when they say call the nurse when you have your first bowel movement after being released from the hospital. My very first bowel movement was in the county jail in front of 20 women I didn't even know. That was the most horrific
and terrifying thing at the age of 23. I didn't understand what I was going through. I had so many emotions going on as a woman, and I was so embarrassed and just everything. You know, I had disappointed my mom. I had a 7-year-old daughter. Plus, I had just given birth to my second child, and I knew facing 10 years in prison. Actually 20 years. My sentencing was 120 to 235 months. So from 10 years to 19 years, that was my guidelines, but the judge ended up giving me 10 because that was a mandatory minimum.
Right.
Now, speed it up to me sitting in the county, holding facility, VOA, for a year. I was actually taken on a plane. They transported me to Washington County, and then from Washington, that was a county jail for a couple of days, and then they transported me on Con Air.
Oh,
the movie Con Air?
Yeah.
Yeah, they transported me, and just imagine, being that young, you're handcuffed to everybody else, and then when you pull up to Rochester, and the Rochester airport, you got guns pointed at you, long machine guns. You got a helicopter. It just looked like a movie, and I was so terrified I couldn't even cry. But I just looked around and was like, "Wow, I sold drugs, and this is what it caused. This is actually what it caused. That was so horrible." To just even go through that as a young girl. I didn't know understand what I had done. So by the grace of God, I got 10 years. My mom was disappointed. Everybody in my family was disappointed. Then to get sent from Minnesota all the way to Texas. So the thing about the federal system is it sends you wherever their place where they can house you at, right?
Okay.
They told me I wouldn't know exactly where I was going to be doing my time yet until I got to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is a transporting center. That's where everybody in the world, whether you're locked up in Puerto Rico, in Miami, California, wherever, right? Wherever you're locked up at, you gotta go through Oklahoma because that's where they place you. It's like a placement center.
Okay.
So I was there for 3 weeks. Then they sent me to Carswell, which was it was a max, it was a FCI and a camp. So I'm at a low level right now. I'm at a level 12 because in my case consists of gang affiliation.
Okay.
So they had me at a level 12. Even though I was the first time nonviolent offender, they had me at a level 12.
Due to the
nature of the
affiliation.
The affiliation of the gangs, in my case. So boom. I go my first time getting off the bus and going into the Carswell facility, you strip naked.
Oh my gosh, yes.
As soon as you strip, you bend over, you cough. After you bend over and cough, so I stripped. I took everything off. She said, squat and cough.
Oh, gosh.
I squat and cough. She said, I started crying. She said, hey, I don't like this as much as you don't like it. Just do the best you can. Hurry up. Let's just get this over with. I'm like, okay. So each time I got lucky because a lot of other girls was like, oh, she was mean. She was a B word, this and that. I didn't like her, and she's looking at me and all this. So first thing you think, especially when you're not, sexually attracted to women is she gay or whatever? She's looking at me. It's because you're young, you don't know. At that time, that wasn't, exploited as much, right? So I went into this room. They do a questionnaire. When was the last time you had a physical? When was the last time you had sex? When's your period? What are you allergic to? All these medical things that they want to know about you before you enter into the system. Now, they have some of it because they already took your blood and made you pee when you was in Oklahoma because they don't want you exposing others if you have any kind of diseases or anything that you could give off to other people, right? So they knew a slight bit about you. but you gave them more. So then they told you at the end of it, after you went through all of that, they asked you when did you graduate from high school? Are you going to further your education? They run down to you what they offer, that you can do online classes, and they have different courses and things that you can discuss with your team. It just was called team at that time, which was a lieutenant for your unit. Okay. Your counselor who housed your case for your dorm where you were going to be staying in. And then the medical sometimes was in the meeting, team meeting, and sometimes not. But those three people would determine how close you would get back to your family. Because like I said, I was from Minnesota, but I'm way down in Texas. Okay. And I only was there because they had just opened that facility. And I got there in June of 1998. I had been in prison since 1997. I was there in June of 1998. So at the time, like I said, I was 23. So I have my 2 kids and I'm away from them. My mama's taking care of them. And, I just had to get used to that environment. And once they told me I was where I was housed at, I actually got lucky because I had grown to know some people while I was in Oklahoma City. I had built a bond with, and I ended up being on a unit with them. So I was cool. My first couple of days there were real scary though, because my very first time going to eat lunch, my very first time the next day going to eat dinner, a fight broke out. And one girl stabbed another girl. Oh my God. And so when we're coming down the hallway to enter into the lunchroom, there's blood all over the place. There's people hollering and screaming. And all I'm thinking of is, hey, this is a medical facility. I could get AIDS. I'm terrified. So I'm everybody's like, move over. Hey, come on, girl, come on, grabbing me, get out the way. They gonna question you, or they gonna assume that you're in something and they can take you to the shoe. Right. So I'm like, oh man, I don't want to go to the hole. I already found out that the shoe was, a solitary housing unit. Right. So I knew immediately that I don't want to go there because I don't want to be locked up in a hole. I want to be in an environment where I can, in population, I could kick it and, let my time run. So yeah, that was my first experience. Like I said, I had team right away. They put us in population right away. And that's the difference between federal and state. They, keep you guys out of population for some time, but they immediately put us in population. As soon as you step on a compound, you're not held under any grounds of do this, do that. They send you out there in the wolves. Just throw you out there in the wolves. God. Every man for himself. So if your family hadn't sent you no money, you don't have no shower, shoe. You have all the stuff that the federal system is going to give you in intake. You don't have nothing. So the best thing would be is if you don't have a support system, you shouldn't be committing no crime. Right. Ladies, men that's out there, you shouldn't be committing no crime if you don't have no support system. And just because you have a support system doesn't mean that they're going to support you if you do something stupid to get yourself put in prison. So my suggestion for the youngsters out there, is so many hustles that you can do legitimately to win. You don't have to commit no crime to where someone is going to tell you where you can sleep, when you can pee, when you can poop, and definitely when you can take a shower. And it's a line. It's always a line. Yeah, it's always somebody there to irritate you. It's always somebody there that you're not going to get along with. And you have nowhere to go and nowhere to turn. So my suggestion would be do everything you're supposed to do. Exactly. Fall in line. So until next time, everyone, thank you for tuning in to Meet the Shoe.